My 31 male girlfriend, F27, of roughly 2.5 years work are planning their usual annual company Christmas party where employees and their partners/spouses, optional but supposedly preferred, are invited to attend for an overnight stay, meal, party, open bar etc. I've never been to the previous events due to a work commitment last year, and the year prior we were still quite a new couple. She works for a large nationwide recruitment agency, and each year a different city's office hosts and those not from that region normally stay in a fancy hotel booked by the company. They are in the process of confirming the total number of guests and she'd like me to go. As a heads up, we are very open and communicate well. I'd say, she's told me, that, prior to us dating, on her first work's Christmas party, after a few drinks she went to an after party in one of the guys' hotel rooms and engaged in a threesome with 2 dudes from her office as a bit of a bucket list experience. After thinking about it, I've said to her I'd rather I give it a miss, but I'm totally happy for her to go on her own. She's told me it's important to her from a career perspective as it's good for her image, get to meet in person with people she works with from other regions and can socialize with the senior management, and that nearly everyone's from work's partners attend. We have since been arguing all last week and I have been accused of not supporting her career as I've never attended her previous work events, being immature and shaming her. I really honestly don't think any of this. It was something she done prior to meeting me. We do hold differing views on sex. As for me, it has always been something special where she views sex as something that's just a bit of fun. This isn't an issue and has actually been good for us as we've learned a lot from each other. I'm even comfortable with the fact she still works alongside these 2 guys. I know she has had a lot more sexual partners than me, but as she has always viewed casual sex when she was single as a bit of fun, and I know deep down it wasn't meaningful. Accepting a sexual history is one thing. People are entitled to a sex life. I'm cool with that. The past is the past, but this feels different as it feels like the present, and socializing at the same party with my girlfriend and the 2 males that have been intimate with her is a different task. It makes me awkward, uncomfortable. I thought it would be easier to say I'm not attending. The thought of having to make small talk and share a table for a meal with these guys is difficult. For context, we are in a good place, rarely argue, and have recently been talking about marriage, having kids etc., and really have a great relationship all round and don't want to do anything that would harm our relationship or career. Update 1. One point I just wanted to clarify based on some of the comments and DMs is that I'm not ashamed of her past at all. Before we started dating, I knew due to being part of an overlapping social group she had a sex-positive outlook, and she was open about the fact that she had been with around 50 guys. That was never an issue for me. We may well have different experiences, as I've only been with 3 long-term GFS prior, but it wasn't something that held me back from perusing and starting a relationship with her in the first place. What made the situation feel different was that I'd be in a room, possibly sat at the same table for dinner, with people who are still actively referencing the past experience. I've never had to deal with that face to face, and the idea of those same people making jokes with me in the room, or even about me, made the situation feel more socially uncomfortable. Update 2. We also had a constructive conversation around her views on sex positivity. Her confidence in celebrating that part of her life has helped me see things differently. She reassured me that any teasing and nicknames at work don't bother her, so why should it bother me? Any terms like slut should not be seen as insults. Instead, something to be proud of and offer her an ability to own and reclaim a woman's sexuality without shame, especially since men involved in stuff like that are held to a different standard than her. If she can be proud of herself while confidently standing by her choices, then I thought I should wholeheartedly support that as well. Anyway, I've decided to go to the event. I still have some reservations, but I realize it's important to show my support in her work life. If that kind of stuff doesn't bother her, then why should it bother me? I trust her, and if she's comfortable in that environment, I want to be too. At the end of the day, I'm happy of how open and unapologetic she is about her views, and I don't want to let my discomfort, or something as trivial as the possibility of being the target of jokes for an evening, get in the way of supporting her fully. We've had some great discussions about careers, sex, relationships, women and society that have only made our relationship stronger. Thanks again for all the advice so far. Talking is great, and having sensible conversations can work a lot of things out. Being awkward for an evening isn't worth not supporting and upsetting your partner. _comments by Oop. From what I know, the company is very much a finance bro vibes and these guys come across as bragging douchebags. But just because they view something like this the way they do doesn't mean everyone else should. They should be held to the same standard as her for doing the same thing. Hi, I think I know what you're meaning. I guess it's a case of meeting in the middle ground and learning from each other. I've learned that not all sex has to be more intimate, romantic and loving in nature, whilst she has learnt that not all sex can be ill, depraved and lustful. Basically being able to mix it up depending on the vibe. There's a benefit to both. That's not really what we concluded from talking it through. It's more about supporting her and not being stigmatized by a negative societal attitude for ultimately doing something that she, as a single person at the time, wanted to do, and show that women are allowed to enjoy sex as much as men despite what others may think. Yeah, but what we talked about is slut only an insult to those that buy into the idea that only men are the winners from sex. Women should be able to enjoy what they want without any judgment too. It's not really a case of putting anyone's feelings to the wayside, it's about being able to support your partner's views, preferences and choices. Yeah, it's something we did talk about, and it might be something she is happy to embrace, but if it's too far after the drinks have been flowing, then she'd be happy to shut it down for my benefit. I get where you're coming from, bro, and I appreciate your thoughts. I've had my worries about how things might go at the party too, but my girlfriend is really confident and has assured me that she can handle herself and quite happy to move the conversation on from the office gossip. If those two guys make comments or jokes, it could put me in an awkward position, and I guess I'll just have to navigate that as it comes. It's only one evening after all. I don't think those guys see her as less than anyone else, they just joke around, and she likes that. As for the whole owning it thing, it's more about her being cool with the past and not letting others define her. I'm seeing it from her perspective now. I guess we all have different experiences and yours sounds bad, but I'm hopeful it'll go well for us. I trust her completely, and I think that's what matters most right now for me going. When we talked about her shutting things down if it gets uncomfortable, we agreed that she would step in on my behalf and move the conversation on. We talked about how we shouldn't have to feel embarrassed about something that she as a single person at the time should be allowed to enjoy and be happy with without any regrets, but can appreciate how it might be awkward for me initially. I trust her to handle that, and honestly, I think she can assert herself well in those situations. I get your concerns about the dynamics at play because that was the basis of my concern initially. I think she genuinely sees things differently than most people do, which is refreshing to me. She's really unapologetic and doesn't seem fazed by their opinions, and she believes that reclaiming the term slut as it's not something that's negative and can be an empowering badge of honor that gives you the ability to not regret any choice. I see it as her way of owning her sexuality, even if others might not respect her for it. It doesn't mean I can't do the right thing and respect her for it. I think it's more of a case of matching their energy, but when coming from a woman it come off differently. I can see how that might seem toxic, but that's only because society has a predetermined view of women and how they are supposed to view sex. It's not the same for men. But she has this confidence that I admire. I'm all for supporting her and her choices, and I'm hoping this will just reinforce how strong she really is. It's not manipulation. It's about being open-minded and finding a compromise as a couple. My girlfriend is confident about her past, and we've had conversations about boundaries and mutual respect. I understand your concerns about sexual comments in the workplace, as I thought that too, but it's about not letting others define her worth or how they see her. Plus it's far from trashy, everyone has their own past and journey. We've concluded it's about trust, and accepting her choices is part of that. Supporting my girlfriend is about celebrating her confidence while I work on my own and comfort with the situation. We can strike a balance that respects both of us. The reality is that I'm choosing to be there for her because it's important to her, and as a result that matters to me. It's not about diminishing myself or sacrificing my comfort, it's about stepping up and supporting her. We did talk through things, and I want to make sure she feels supported in a setting that could otherwise be awkward for her. I know she values my feelings, but I'm not too worried about the coworkers or what they think about something that she isn't ashamed of. It's about being there for the person you care about that's important. Sometimes that means stepping out of your own comfort zone, and I'm okay with that. Like she said, just because she's got a past, and wanted to do those things at the time, I should be happy for her for that, and it doesn't mean I should neglect any duties that you should expect of a partner over a bit of insecurity. It's not being around the individuals that's uncomfortable, she still works with them at the end of the day, so is sound with that, and not shy about a bit of banter. It's just she's rather not have to answer the question of why she's not with her boyfriend, especially after saying to the work to book me a place set I'd go initially because that could look like I'm shaming her. Also, she'd either have to third wheel with couples or hang out with the mostly younger single folk, which isn't the most fun. Basically she'd rather be with me, and like what we talked about, it's a basic of a partner to be able to turn up at a social event as A+1. It shouldn't be too much to ask. Well, I'm far from fucked, am I? I'm in a solid relationship with a great person, we've got goals together and we're working well to achieve that. Listen, I had known about some of her previous prior to even asking her out for the first time. So I wouldn't have wasted the last 3 years of my life building something if it was a problem. Yeah, so TS is a little bit different since you don't normally have to meet up with people who have slept with your partner. But it's one night a year, the very least you can do is show up as A+1 for your other half. Those guys may comment/joke all they want, but that doesn't define her, nor does it mean she's in denial. I'm fully aware of the way people can talk, but she chooses not to let it get to her, instead use it as a way to take pride in her sexuality. That's a strength and a way to show sex positivity. They can't own her because of some comments. We both know her worth isn't tied to some outdated narrative about how women should feel ashamed of their sexual history. It's easy to throw around accusations when you don't understand a situation. Just because someone's respectful in their relationship and their partner's past doesn't mean they lack self-respect. Self-respect comes from being committed to a relationship. It's about trust and being secure, not about letting her past experiences define their future. If you're so quick to jump to conclusions, maybe it's not my self-respect you should be worried about. Now on to second story. Found my sister in a towel chatting with my husband, and now everyone suggests she should have married him instead. My husband James, 34 male, and I, 29F, were neighbors growing up. My sister, Fran, 34F, Was in the same grade as my husband growing up. Everyone knew my sister in school because she is very smart and beautiful. James had a huge crush on her and all of us knew about it. He asked her out for senior prom and Fran shot him down, in front of the whole school. They still remain friends, but he moved to a different state for college, and we did not hear much from him, except see him when he came back for holidays. James and I were never friends growing up, since I was in middle school when this happened. In fact, I was much younger than both of them, and they would actively avoid me or involving me in their hangouts and activities. I went to a good college and got my first job in the same city as James. My mom suggested I should contact James, since I did not know anyone there. We became friends and 3 years later, we got married. We both have high-paying jobs and love our life. We moved back to our hometown during COVID as James's mom had health issues, and our jobs allowed us to work remotely. Fran also had a pretty good life. She married when she was 23 and her husband was pretty well off. 2 years ago, Fran discovered that he was cheating on her for almost the entire duration of their marriage with multiple partners and she decided to break things off. Fran moved back with my mom. Fran had not worked for the entire duration of their marriage and was expecting to gain significant alimony from the divorce. However, due to complications regarding prenup, she barely got anything and is struggling financially. She got a job but is barely able to afford her own place and continues living with my mom. James and I were very supportive of her during the whole process. Since James and Fran were friends growing up, they both have a special bond. They have their inside jokes and stories, and I sometimes feel like a third wheel when we all meet. However, James keeps his distance and has never given me any reason to believe that he has lingering feelings for her. Fran, on the other hand, constantly visits us, like 2 to 3 times a week, and ends up staying for dinner and sleeping in our guest room. I don't mind her coming over, but I do not like the fact that she talks more to James than with me. Also, she always comes over when I am not at home, and I often find them sitting next to each other on sofa and watching TV when I get home. It sort of reminds me of my childhood where I was locked out of our basement when Fran had friends over, and I would feel left out. Fran is also too comfortable around James and walks around the house in just a towel after her shower when James is around, or sleep in her underwear in guest room without locking the door. I have voiced my concerns to her, but she says that we are family, and she does not care. I have also voiced my concerns to James, and he does make efforts now to explain stories and inside jokes if Fran makes them. The main issue happened this weekend. I was hanging out with my mom and Fran last weekend and Fran was recollecting stories about how James would do her homework and do chores for her growing up. She said he was so much in love with me, and I felt guilty taking advantage of him. My mom jokingly said to her that I wish you had the wits to marry James than your loser husband and you would have not been in this situation. Fran smiled after hearing that and nodded, but I was hurt by the comment. I protested to my mom that James is my husband, and I do not want her to make such comments about him. My mom doubled down and said that she feels like it because both James and I are high earners, while Fran is struggling. So, it would make sense if Fran was married to James, and I would be fine since I do not need James to support me financially. She kept on saying that it was a hypothetical, and just wants both her daughters to be happy. I did not like those comments and told them to not speak like that about James and my marriage in general. Fran chimed in and told me that I should not take the comments so personally, and I am being too sensitive. However, I had a fight with both of them, and I left. When I came home, and told James, he also sided with my mom and Fran and told me that her mom just made a harmless joke. I also raised the issue of Fran's behavior around our house, and he told me that this is between me and my sister, and he is not going to tell Fran about what she can or cannot wear in our house. However, I am just feeling really bad since the situation and despite everyone apologizing to me, things just don't feel right. Am I wrong here in reacting the way I did, or does everyone else have a point, and I should be more secure about my relationship with James? Update 1. The comments really made me paranoid, and I did see everyone's point that James may have just married me because of his crush on Fran. This really shot up my anxiety, and I started snooping around. My husband literally makes me check his phone for new messages when he is not around. So, I knew there was nothing to hide there. However, I was spooked by how my sister always knows when I am not at home, and why James and Fran are always sitting on the same couch when I come home. I tried talking to my husband, and he told me that my feelings were valid. However, he also said that Fran is going through a tough time and refused to say anything bad about my mom and Fran. Last Friday, I went to gym as usual in the evening and when I came home, Fran was sitting in the living room, while James was cooking dinner. I got a bit angry and asked her what she is doing here. She said had no plans for the night, and she came to hang out with us. It really annoyed me, and I told her that I wanted to spend a quiet weekend with my husband and if she can come some other time. She could see I was upset. She started saying how our mom was just being silly, and I need to let it go since it was just a joke. I told her I did not find it funny, and we got into a fight. She said that I am always an insecure, annoying kid and no wonder no one liked me. It really hurt me, but James stepped in and told Fran that she needs to leave. I have never seen James be so forceful with Fran. Fran muttered some unpleasant things to James, and then left. I was in tears by the end of the whole thing and James was consoling me. I was really upset and spent the night in our room alone. In the morning, I prepared notes on all things I wanted to ask James. Your comments really helped me get my thoughts straight. I know I was being very insecure, but after reading the comments, I really started questioning if Mess really married me for me, or just because I was Fran's sister and looked like her. People called me Dollar Store Fran in high school. James and I had a long conversation, and I told him my anxieties and insecurities. I told him how it makes me feel that he spends so much time with Fran when she visits us, and they have their own inside jokes. I asked him if he still has feelings for her. He was calm and smiling the whole time. He told me that he will tell me the truth but does not want me to hate him for it later. He said that he knows Fran used him all through their school days, because she knew he liked her. When he went to college, Fran still tried to keep in touch with him, but putting distance between them made him realize how badly she treated him, and he decided to just cut contact with her so that he can work on himself. That was the reason. He rarely visited us when he used to come for holidays and stopped being friends with Fran. I told him that it bothered me that he chose Fran before me and ignored me during our childhood. That was the reason I always had that doubt if I was his second choice. He said that I was 13 when he went to college, and if he would have liked me instead of Fran at that age, we would be having a different problem. He told me that when I contacted him, he thought that I must be like Fran and was not very enthusiastic to meet me. However, after we hung out for a few times, he realized I am nothing like Fran. We soon became close, started dating and got married after a few years. He told me that Fran was married by then, and he saw that I always put Fran on the pedestal and would get jealous when Fran posted vacation pictures or the new shiny things her husband bought for her. That was the reason he never told me that he does not like hanging around Fran, as he feels that for me, Fran was always the North Star. He told me that he has always kept his distance from Fran, and she was a non-issue since we would meet her only few times every year. However, after her divorce, he did not know how to act. He said that he was grateful to me for uprooting our lives and moving back to our hometown for his mom's health. He wanted to do the same and take care of my family. When Fran got divorced, he supported her in every way he could for me, even though he realized it meant spending a lot of time with her and listening to her bring up all the memories from high school that he wants to forget. I told him it bothered me that Fran came to our house as often as she does, and generally in evenings when I go to gym. He told me that he also finds it odd that she knows my gym routine and always comes on evenings when I am not at home. However, he told me that he has always kept his distance from her, and if she did anything that would raise an alarm, he would have told me immediately. She just makes him all the old movies or TV shows they watched growing up, and gossips endlessly about their high school friends. He told me I need to trust him, and if I want him to be the bad guy and ask Fran to not visit us often, he can do that for me. However, he knows that I will eventually make up with my mom and Fran and does not want to blame him for being mean to Fran. However, he told me he will not tell Fran what to wear around the house, as it would be creepy if it came from him. I felt I got all the assurance I needed from James, and I will never doubt how amazing of a husband he has been. My mom and Fran visited us on Sunday, and my mom profusely apologized to me. She told me she does not want me to feel bad for her comment and she would never wish anything bad on my marriage. She meant to say that James was a great guy, and she hopes Fran can find someone like him one day. Fran was a bit sour but apologized to us for all the name calling on Friday and told us that it's just her hormones. She said that she likes hanging out with her sister and her best friend, and hence comes to our house. I told her she is welcome to come anytime she wants, but to call ahead of time in case James and I have plans for the evening, and she agreed. I really want to move past this issue, but I do want to put some firm boundaries on when Fran can come to our house and hang out with James alone, as I know it bothers him too.